Here's the quilt top as it was originally given to me, quite large, but many holes and missing fabrics as you can see. Some of the silk was missing in spots, and you could see the padding that was inside of the neckties. This is typical with silk that is this old. This shows the back of the quilt top. As you can see, it was hand stitched together and many years before rotary blades were used to cut straight lines. To choose the best section of the top to work with, I placed small post-it notes all over the top wherever the fabric was threadbare or missing entirely. The section I chose to work with was rectangular in shape, so I cut that section out to work with. I was planning on making this into a wall hanging. On the trim shape, I used a thin fusible interfacing in small rectangular shapes to fuse over any spots that were damaged or missing. Since I planned on appliquing shapes over them, they would not show when finished. I auditioned several colors of satin fabric on the top, even making yards of the dark green satin as bias strips for a vine and using Alteneau's modern poinsettia dye for flowers with 2 of the pink satins. The dark green didn't show up as well as the pinks, just didn't work with the top, so another design had to be chosen. The top had to be stabilized and be able to put on the long arm machine, so I found some light brown tulle that had a little shine to it and an old sheet that wasn't used anymore. The sheet was placed over the top of the quilt and the tulle was laid over top of it as I sewed the edges together so that it would be sandwiched between them. Finally, I was able to get it onto the long arm. Okay, so what I have is I have the quilt top. I have my backing behind. Here's the backing. I used black. 1 layer of 80/20. I have an old sheet that has been used, and then I have the silk tie quilt top, and then I have a layer of tulle on top of that. Now the purpose of the layer of the tulle and the sheeting is because this is such a fragile fabric. It's over 100 years old, and many of the pieces had to be fixed, and I had used some fusible interfacing. It's not really going to show because on the pieces where it was just so threadbare, what I'm going to do there is that's where some of the motifs will go. So what I have now is I actually have a ball of yarn which has all kinds of colors that are in the quilt, and it's got some gold threads through it, and I'm using the largest of the couching feet on the machine, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to couch this down. Now I started already and I pulled the thing ahead, and so this is just the yarn is just laying out there pooled. So this is how you do it. Here. And that's how I'm actually going to put the vine on with this yarn first. Okay, as you can see, I have the yarn all couched down, and I'm starting to inside the center panel here. I'm going to do some 1-inch cross hatching just inside of the border that I already couched down with the yarn. So I'll get that done, and then we can start putting things on it. Okay, all the cross hatching is done in the center, in the middle of where I couched down this thread. I'm probably going to do some more gold thread, but now I get to put the leaves on. I have a whole bunch of grape leaves from Alteneau's grape leaf set. I stamped the grape leaf outline onto satin, a green satin fabric, and then I cut it out with the matching die. So I also have 2 bunches of different colored purple fabric for the grapes. I might have to cut more of those, but I cut those with circle die cut. So basically I'm going to lay these out the way I want on this, and we're going to have some grape clusters and bunches of leaves, and then I'm going to sew them down, and probably then I will add some more gold metallic vines and things like that when I get done. Okay? Okay, now that the leaves are mostly on, except for any extras that I want to put on, I have these circles cut and I've got them laid down on the quilt, and I'm going to do raw edge applique. So I'm using the glide foot, and the reason I'm doing this is because it's cupped up a little bit and it will go over top of these things that are laying there without flipping them up. So I'm going to stitch those down and on with the next. The extra grape tendrils were quilted down with metallic gold thread. After the piece was quilted and removed from the machine, I made a hanging sleeve from black fabric and sewed it to the back of the top edge. The binding was 2.5 inches wide, folded in half, and sewn onto the front edges around the quilt, mitering the corners as usual. Then folded to the back and sewn down by hand. Now it can be properly displayed and will continue to be a family heirloom.